Welcome to Cross Section, conversations at the intersection of faith, news and culture.
Well, hello and welcome to our cross-section Christmas special. We are recording this on the 12th of December, just in case you're wondering about the topicality of some of the stories, or if we missed something incredible that happens a week after that we record this show. But we have the full gang with us. We have Alicia and Zanna are in our London studio. We really do have a London studio, people. Welcome, you guys.
Afternoon. Hello.
Yeah, thanks for having
Looking
us.
slightly less festive than Danny. If you're watching on YouTube, you know Danny is sporting the classic Christmas jumper.
I can spot a bit of tinsel in the studio.
Exactly.
Just like made it up.
It's here.
It's
Christmas colours.
I see it. Christmas colours. Grey is apparently the Christmas colour in 176.
Silver.
Silver bells. Yes, excellent. Well, look, it's another busy news week. We're going to kick off with a few minutes just looking at the stories of this week, things that are topical. But then we are going to be focusing on a 2024 review, some of the big stories, some of the highlights, possibly even some of the lowlights. A little quiz, of course, to keep things going. And then we'll look ahead to 2025. But this week, lots of news stories. I'll throw a couple out and see if anybody wants to pick up on any. Very tragic story of Sarah Sharif and the finding against her parents in that case. Luigi Mangione, I think is the name of the shooter arrested in the States. I don't think I've heard anybody say it out loud. This was the guy who shot, allegedly have shot the United Healthcare CEO. And it is all kicking off in Syria. That's part of the reason we probably gave you the date, because each date seems to change. HTS have taken control. So I'll pause there. Anybody want to jump in on any of those stories?
Well, the shooting of the Luigi Mangione shooting of the health insurance boss, it's fascinating just because it's one of those stories where on one level it's a murder trial or a murder charge, but then why is he getting support? Yes, health insurance companies in the US are unpopular, but actually does it tie into wider politicization of violence and justification of violence? So it's interesting that it's attracting the attention it is.
Good. Danny's in. Oh, Alicia was about to come.
No, the only other comment that I was going to make is that at the start of the year, of course, we all knew the escalating conflict within the Middle East between Israel, Gaza, and how that has escalated over the year with kind of Lebanon being drawn in, and you draw in now Syria. I don't think anyone anticipated that the conflict that started there would kind of escalate to this kind of civil uprising that's taking place in Syria, and also in many ways how kind of international leaders are not really engaging in the way other than giving statements. There isn't a call to either humanitarian effort in the sense or going to war or protection or anything like that. There's somewhat a powerlessness in terms of the political leaders and in how they're responding. And the only one who has come out with a very direct, we are not getting involved, is President-elect Trump. So I just think it's fascinating in terms of what has taken place over the last 11 or so months. The escalation, we make predictions, but I don't think anyone predicted what would be taking place in Damascus and that President Assad would now be in Russia seeking asylum. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of places are distracted because there's a lot of things going on. The French government, obviously, we've talked about Germany recently, South Korea, lots of situations, and the complexity where Russia are distracted because of things in Ukraine, and that allows the Syrian thing to kick off, or at least one of the reasons behind that, and the complex nature of the factors in that, and they're so interconnected, where the impact of this, what's happening in Syria, what will that do in Russia, what will it do in Turkey, and as you've said, with President Trump coming in, it's like nobody knows what to do. I'm going to kick on to the next couple of stories. The farmers' protests, Starmer's relaunch, and Canada, some new figures out on euthanasia in Canada. It's now 1 in 20 under the MAID legislation, as it's called, in Canada. We've also had the Deadbeater Committee, Kim Leadbeater. It's her bill, but I'll call it the Deadbeater Committee because this is more of those who are in favour of this bill have been put on, and they're all junior MPs. There's definitely some concerns. Alyssa, you're probably best placed to comment on who's on this committee and the bill.
I am, to a certain degree, yes. So today, or yesterday, we've all been waiting for what has been the outcome of kind of Kim Leadbeater selecting the MPs for what is now moving into committee stage, which should be, in theory, line-by-line scrutiny. But there are, of course, some concerns in terms of the opposition who is skilled and equipped to speak out. Then the most notable people that are not on this committee are Rachel Maskell, the Labour MP, backbench MP, who has been a long-term advocate for improving end-of-life care. Rumours are that her office and Kim Leadbeater's office have come into real tension around this bill, and in particular, Kim feels that there wouldn't be great conversation and dialogue. And then the other one is Dr. Ben Spencer, a former doctor psychiatrist with specific specialisms, now a new member of parliament. He put himself in the running following second reading to say that he would love to offer his expertise, his insights around capacity, around how you discern that in a medical context. And he's not on the conversation or on the committee rather. So those who are, that we are positive are, Danny Kruger, who's the Conservative MP, he's present. I think the surprise with this is we always knew that there would be a government minister that would be present, but in fact there's two. So you have Stephen Kinnock, who is the palliative care minister, who voted in favour of assisted dying. He is on the bill on the committee, and so too is from the kind of a junior minister, Sarah Sackman, who is in charge or a minister within the Ministry of Justice. So the balance that weighs is it's 11-9, I understand, 11 in favour of the bill, 9 who are against, and so there's going to be a real interest in terms of how this moves forward and whether it will get the scrutiny that it deserves. So yeah.
Nikki Costa, who is a former, I think, cabinet office advisor and minister. She's very good on social media on this. 11-9, sorry, but then the two ministers tip that further, and then it's the juniorness of it is her biggest concern. So many of these are new intake, not used to doing line by line scrutiny. It's a very inexperienced committee. A real challenge there. Going to kick off a couple other stories just to prove that Zanna's actually with us, and we may or may not have lost Danny. We'll see what happens here. Zanna, I know you want to speak about Saudi Arabia hosting the World Cup, and you probably don't want to speak about the Pink News story. And Benjamin Cohen and Anthony James are on Pink News, allegations of harassment there. But Jay-Z, perhaps the other big story on the cultural lens for you. Any of those you want to pick up on?
I mean, the Jay-Z story did definitely catch my eyes. I'm sure it did many people. Yeah, just really, so I feels like every week we switch the news on and there's another scandal that comes out. But yeah, the kind of P. Diddy story has been going on, but this is a new kind of element to that with Jay-Z about something that might have happened in 2000, I think was the year. So I guess we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, just a really sad scandal. I mean, yeah, there's a lot about Jay-Z's life, I guess, in those years that, well, we don't know what was going on. So we will see what happens. But it's interesting timing as well with, it coincides with the premiere of Mufasa, which his daughter's in. So yeah, a lot for the family to be dealing with, I'm sure. But we will see what happened there. And yeah, I think it's really sad.
I think it's fascinating as well that Saudi Arabia get awarded the World Cup this week after all the fuss about the rainbow armbands last week. The FA all over the place. It does seem like football provides us with plenty of cultural stories. And we're coming to a quiz, but an early quiz question. Does anybody know what Christmas carols proving contentious this year?
Oh, yes, I did hear this about Ransom Israel. I can't remember.
O come, Emmanuel,
Yeah.
and ransom captive Israel. Which is obviously not talking to with anything in the modern conflict, but some people are so nervous they've decided to avoid that one this year. Keeps me entertained how people react to this. But we are on to the 2024 review, the big stories of the year, the standouts, what caught people's attention. So let us begin on the domestic front. What in terms of the UK? You can go culture or politics, but we're probably looking a little bit more politically to start with on the domestic front. Danny, just to prove you're still with us and some technical difficulties, what was the big standout story for you?
Well, hopefully I'm still with you and you can hear me. But obviously we had the general election in July that came earlier than people expected. But my political story of the year is the short honeymoon that the Labour government have had, the challenges that they are facing just a few months into power, whether that's with the budgets, tractor protests, whether that's with being able to get reforms through, changes in Downing Street operations, that actually they won a huge landslide majority in Parliament, but actually it was quite thin in many, many places, and their authority and their ability to govern is already coming under question. So I think that's something that we're going to see play out more in the year ahead.
Anybody else on the domestic front? I mean, Danny, I thought you were going to go for the Taylor Swift concerts, but you're obviously keeping those for the cultural section. So,
I didn't make it to the Eras tour, so
oh,
He's
Danny, hard done by.
He's still upset about it. I think.
Yeah, I could tell. Sense that. So, anything else domestically? I mean, Labour is the big story, but I'd like to pitch in for the January restoration of Stormont. It was almost a year ago. We got a government in Northern Ireland. So the rest of you have forgotten that. And if I didn't look up our old episodes, I might have forgotten myself.
Too funny. I think the only addition to the kind of UK political context is that it feels like personality politics is returning to the fore and more about how we discern good policy or good leadership. If you think many of the critiques against the current Prime Minister is that he's not charismatic enough, he doesn't appeal to the masses in terms of he might be saying the right things, but he doesn't hold kind of the attention of the public in terms of leading them through difficult kind of decision making that they're having. Alongside that, you have Kemi Badenoch, who's the new Conservative leader, who is trying to grab the headlines in opposition, but much of her light is kind of lost due to the rise of dear Nigel Farage and kind of the Reform kind of UK party. And so I think that is, in terms of domestic politics, that is going to be, I think we're returning to that kind of who's popular, and it might not necessarily be about their politics, but it's about their showman or showpersonship, to be diplomatic, in our era. And I think that is significant for our politics moving forward into 2025.
Oh, so we're going PC on cross-section. Very good, Alicia.
I know, appealing to our listeners.
Internationally, Zanna, I'm going to throw you these one. What are you going for internationally?
Well, I mean, not to be a spoiler to the quiz that we might be about to have, but a lot of countries did have elections this year, it feels like. I mean, obviously, America is the big one that dominated the news over the last couple of months, but I'm not going to say the number of how many because it will be a spoiler. But a lot of countries change in leadership, and that's just been a huge kind of picture of, well, just change for the good, for the bad in lots of different places. You can think of India, America, us, places where it's been quite significant. So I think that's not specific, but it is 2024, I think, will be remembered for the political change that it's seen across the whole globe.
Dan, I'm going to limit you to 17 stories here, so come on, what have you got for us?
Well, on the international stage, we've had the revolution, the uprisings in Syria just the last week or so, the continuation of the war in the Middle East. But I think the thing that will affect how so many of those stories play out in the year to come will be Donald Trump's re-election. So I think that has to be the international standout story, because I think it's going to affect so many international issues. Whether that's him declaring that he will bring the war in the Ukraine to an end in 24 hours. How he'll do that, we will wait and see. So I think the election of Donald Trump and the impact of that in global affairs is my standout international story.
And huge impact for evangelicals in that, just because of the way the American electorate likes to define itself and some of the stats of where his support base comes from. It did seem the Christian constituents in the US, maybe, I was going to say they were slightly better this time around than last time, but I'm not sure that's actually true. But there was a little bit more engagement of we don't necessarily like and we don't necessarily agree, but it's the lesser of the two evils in terms of the choice in some ways. But that's part of the reason it's going to have such a big impact. So I agree. I think Donald Trump getting shot and then Donald Trump winning, and the surprise at the win from so many places, despite the fact the polling was so close and it did seem the momentum was with him, is probably the big story from my perspective. Alicia, anything else on the international front?
Yeah, I've got two. I'm going to lead with the kind of the tragic story of, and I'm going to mispronounce her name, but the case in France of, is it Giselle Pilcot? And the story of her husband drugging her, and that case going to trial, where 50 men, along with her husband, are being trialed for her rape. And just the shock of that in so many ways, in terms of the impact internationally of how could a married man use the defense of abuse in his own childhood as a part of a caveat to his treatment to his wife, and yet saying that he still loves her still, and just the confusion around that, and yet she being a symbol of courage, of kind of attending court and trial to give her testimony of the case. I think there's that ripple conversation. It's still the Me Too in terms of power, men, sex and abuse, and how do women contend in that space. I think that's significant. And another niche one, and I don't know if it's my algorithm that has gone on steroids, because I've been listening to it a lot, and many of them are old podcasts from the start of the year, is just the rise of women really reviewing the decision around the use of the hormonal contraceptive pill, and whether that is the right decision making, and how different spaces. So you've got the Diary of a CEO talking about birth control. Is that right? Is it right that a woman for over 10 years or plus is using it as a mechanism for kind of what was argued as liberation, but now has many health complications down the line? You have kind of podcasts that are led by John Wyatt, coming from the kind of Christian background and theological principle of actually what is the Christian view and stance on use of the contraceptive pill. And there are many conversations amongst women my age groups, those who are single, those who are in relationships and unbelievers, but also those who are married and talking about family planning, talking about the contraception pill. And I think that has been a conversation that has been kind of reverberating across the globe, that might be niche to kind of UK politics and conversation, but it is a specific issue that is pertinent to women. So for me, I think that's one that probably might appear in my 2025 prediction.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to those predictions. So fascinating to see some of the different stories that are popping up for people. And I'm going to throw kind of cultural and spiritual. These are they're different. They're interconnected. Feel free to pick one or two things that are you saw jumping out in terms of those. Zanna, do you want to hit that one first?
Cultural for me, well, it's probably my year's highlight, really. But going to the Eras tour, I mean, I think if we take away the fact that I'm a big fan and a big fan of her music and love the show, I think it's just a really interesting thing to look at, and the way that she took over. I mean, this tour made a lot of money, and I mean, it caused mini earthquakes in places, which is just bonkers. But I think it's just really interesting to see the way the world became so obsessed with this woman and this show. And yeah, I think there won't be another, well, there might be in the future, but there won't be another tour like it. And the way it became completely obsessed over. So I think that's been really, really interesting just to see. And that it just brings back questions around celebrity culture, the way we kind of put people on pedestals. I mean, Taylor Swift is seen as almost non-human to people now, it feels like.
It is fascinating, and towards the end of the year, the death of Liam Payne, the kind of impact of that, I found that quite interesting, sad, fascinating. Just felt like, yeah, it just in a number of ways, the way again it kind of caught the culture and people, the outpouring around that. So Danny, over to you on the cultural, spiritual engagement
Well, I think
piece.
I'm going to pick Justin Welby's resignation in the wake of the Making, the View, but broader than that, the logjam that the Church of England seems to have got in, the inability to find a way forward around sexuality, the kind of unresolved opposition there, continued efforts to try and find a way forward, and probably just underestimating the extent of disagreement that there is. Again, I probably have something more to say about that when we come to the 2025 predictions, but I think him resigning was notable, but I think it also points to some really significant challenges ahead for the Church of England.
Definitely, there. That's an interesting. Alicia.
My one is Dear Elon Musk, and more specifically, how different MPs, third sector organisations, The Guardian themselves have decided to come off of X because it's a platform of hate, and are trying to explore different platforms or threads, or can't even keep up blue something, to kind of have that kind of open dialogue and honest. And I think it's fascinating, the conversation around speech and what his attempt, or how he would argue, is kind of the liberation, the proliferation of ideas that's to be celebrated. If you think in many ways, would Donald Trump be president-elect without the platform of X, him being reinstalled, all that kind of conversation? I think it's fascinating, and I think, I think it's a challenging space. We believe in democracy, debate, dialogue, freedom of speech, but yet there's a really strong pushback from particularly left-leaning kind of politicians and kind of NGOs in terms of the role of X as a platform, and is that, should we be on it and should it be cancelled in that sense? So yeah, that would be my cultural conversation.
That's your cultural conversation. Well, I mean, I was tempted by Oasis reforming and the tickets going like gold dust. That's kind of a band from my era. The Middle East, I think we've covered, but I still think massive cultural implications in terms of both immigration, the way that's dividing society, in terms of when you talk about those issues, different people have different views and they very quickly come to the fore. I think the Musk and the culture wars and Trump stuff is all fascinating, but I'm going to go with the Olympics. I was able to get to the Olympics, which was amazing. Culturally, I thought the opening ceremony for Roar was really interesting. Just the kind of the Lord's Supper piece, that was the mocking of that, the kind of kickback around that, the pushback that came in quite quickly. Just a highly secularized French culture didn't even initially think it was an issue. Obviously, that had all been approved. Everybody'd seen it. Everybody thought that was fine. But suddenly, globally, everyone, no, it's not. So again, that Christianity is the one religion you can mock. I don't feel defensive about that. I'm intrigued. And then the pushback did come, and actually then they basically had to walk it back and apologize. And I thought that was just an interesting one overall. I did certainly enjoy Rachel Gunn and her breakdancing, and the zero for the breaking in the Olympics. Snoop Dogg making appearances everywhere he went. But I also thought that cultural piece was interesting. At the end of the year, Notre Dame Cathedral opened again post the fire, and how the French handled that. Much better, but a reminder, I certainly thought, of this laicity that the French have, this secularized culture where churches are owned by the state. So it was a big state occasion. The Pope didn't go. I mean, there were religious officials and people there. I mean, the Irish Archbishop was there, but this was ultimately like a state occasion, because the state, I'm pretty sure, might own all the churches in France. So a reminder of this strange relationship between church and state in so many places, and that for me does tie in with the Welby thing. I mean, his resignation speech was just car crash. He made it in the House of Lords, and I just couldn't believe he was making it and making light, and thought this was some sort of comedy dad joke moment to resign, and his just misunderstanding of the entire situation. Again, for me, he should have gone on a whole load of other issues, not just this. But what that sets up with the Church of England and where that's going, it'll be interesting to see what others say in 2025 and their predictions. But we are rattling through the time. Zanna, we are going to come to you, and you've got some quiz questions for us, and I'm going to hand over kind of control of the show now to you.
Oh, excellent. That's what we like. So I've got 10 questions that cover a whole host of different things that have happened this year. I'm wondering what the best way of doing this is, because hands up isn't going to work. So maybe...
Do you trust us to write our answers or not? That's the question.
Oh, yeah, you could write your answers, or the first person to shout out, but that might...
Shout out. I'm in for shout out.
Okay, let's do that. Hopefully it's not too disruptive for the listeners. Cool. So, first question. How many countries had an election this year? If no one gets the actual answer, closest wins.
72.
74.
98.
74. Well,
Oh, she's good. She's good.
No way is that a guess.
Well, it was once you came in strong.
Students inquire.
Wrong to Alicia. Wow. Okay, I'm hoping you will get this one. What was the date of our general election?
Beep, Alicia.
4th of July.
2024 for accuracy.
Yeah, it was not 2023. And more importantly, how many seats did Labour win?
411.
Yes. Well done. Well, I don't really know who
He knows that because I told him yes.
And then you hesitated.
That was your mistake, Danny. You shouldn't have done that. A sub question to this: who got the closest prediction out of our team or out of you guys?
Well, it must be Danny because he quoted it like 4 times, I feel.
It must be Danny because he made 16 predictions.
Yeah.
I changed my predictions most weeks.
Yeah.
So one of them was right.
I think everyone gets a point for that because you all knew the answer.
Lovely.
Let's be nice. Okay, now if you've been listening to this episode, you'll know the answer to this. What was the name of the Australian breakdancer in the Olympics?
Ray Gunn.
Ray Gunn.
Yeah.
Rachel Gunn, officially, like, you know.
Great. And another sporting question, which was also another significant sporting event of the year, which we've not mentioned yet, the Euros final. What was the final score?
1-0.
2.
Not England.
Anyone remember?
Who knows, who cares?
I really don't know, Nork.
That is a shocker.
This is showing the reality.
The Euros. I nearly said something that was ridiculous, and I'm glad I didn't. No, I can't remember.
Spain, they played Spain, did they not?
Yes.
Spain.
Was it 1-0 though?
I actually.
It was 2-1 to Spain.
2-1
Oh,
Spain.
Daddy Googled that one. Yeah.
He didn't trust that I was about to reveal the answer, but. So did Peter get that? I think he did. You definitely said Spain,
I said
but no
Spain,
one
I'm
got
getting-
the score, so that's fine. What was the highest grossing film of the year? Oh, this is stop them in their tracks.
Mona 2's had a big opening weekend, but I doubt it's that yet.
What game? I can't even think what came out this year. It was celebrated.
I was expecting you to get this, Alicia.
Is it one
It's
I've
usually
watched?
our cultural correspondent.
It's one that I've watched. That's even worse.
And you were a fan.
And I was a fan. Okay, it wasn't that one then. Oh no, this is bad. June.
Mm-mm.
Did that come out this year?
It did, but it wasn't June 2. It's a cartoon?
Inside Out 2.
Yes. Did you just Google that?
No,
There's a lot of cheating going on here. This is
I know. We don't know what they're doing on this.
Cartoon is a great clue. That's what happened.
Right. It was Inside Out 2.
Parents should use it as a tool to
It was
speak
brilliant.
about emotions with their kids. It's great. And us millennials need to watch it to
A quiz at
recapture
the
a-
moment.
It was
childhood.
It was brilliant. Okay, next question. How much did Taylor Swift make on the Eras tour?
She donated it all like the modern woman that she is. I don't know.
No, she did pay her various staff on the crew 197 million pounds in bonuses or something ridiculous.
What are we talking? 2.4 billion.
1.6 billion.
2.4 billion.
Danny, do you have a guess?
I know it was over $1 billion. I'm going to go for 2 billion.
It was 2.08 billion.
It
Dollars.
was Danny.
So Danny's done. As he rightfully should as a big Taylor Swift fan.
Who did not go and see her?
Yeah, he did not contribute to that.
I did.
He stewarded his money well as a husband and a father. We should not knock that, people.
Whereas I unfortunately did contribute to that 2.8 billion. Right, when was the Oasis reunion tour announced? What
Summer
date?
2024.
June.
I want the date.
The date?
Closest wins.
This is ridiculous.
3rd of June.
No, it's not before the election. Or is it before the election?
I'm going 1st of June.
It's not before the election. That would have taken the headlines.
Name a date. Name a date.
July 22nd.
Alicia's closest, 25th of August.
Ah,
Oh.
I don't know if anyone really gets that, but I'll give it to you. Okay, we're nearly there, guys. What did Keir Starmer accidentally say in his Labour conference?
Return the sausages!
yes.
Oh, you two political nerds.
Correct. Did you not know that,
Sorry to
Peter?
people listening to the shouting. I vaguely remember some sausages, yeah.
So instead of return the hostages, he called on Hamas to return the sausages.
Yes, an unfortunate mistake. Who was the most Googled individual?
Trump.
Any other guesses?
Individual.
Oh, no.
Janie Batts.
No, it's not. It's...
Tim Waltz.
No, it's a female.
Oh.
Is it a female?
I'm not saying.
No, she's had her guess. That's it.
Give
We're
the
all out.
continent. All right.
Oh,
who was
still,
it?
so none of us have got it, Zanna.
I'm not
Go.
saying that. It was Donald Trump. But I just didn't want to make it obvious before you guys guessed.
Oh, great.
So well done.
Got it right.
And then the final question. What was the Collins Dictionary word of the year? And I'm going to give you 4 options because I don't think you'll get it.
Brain rot.
Well, I'm going to give you 4 options. Demure, brain rot, brat, or manifest.
Demure.
I knew that manifest is one of them.
No,
Brain rot's the
demure.
other.
Manifest is the Cambridge Dictionary. I just don't know if it's Collins.
No, manifest. I'm going demure.
It's actually brat.
Oh,
After all.
my gosh.
But I think all of those have featured as other dictionaries words of the year. Maybe not demure, but brain rot was definitely one and manifest was definitely one. Do you guys know what
Brain
brat
rot is
means?
what we were all suffering from.
Yeah.
Brat summer is like an awesome summer, I don't know.
Yeah, kind of being individual, a bit rebellious.
Oh, it's quite a positive tweak.
You do you.
So
Having a brat Christmas.
your
Danny, you're so down with the kids.
You heard it first. Danny's having a brat Christmas, apparently. That is my quiz complete, and I think the winner is.
It should be Alicia.
It is Alicia.
Thank you.
Oh, Alicia is loving it. Right. We're in the home straight. I can't resist. So we've got another mini quiz because we want Zanna to be able to participate. So I'm going to quiz you 3. Okay, one of Labour's, it's a shout out again, one of Labour's first big acts in government was to sign away a British overseas territory to another country. What
Chagos Island.
to give away? The Chagos Islands. She's straight in. Alicia's up
We
1-0.
haven't even finished the question.
Oh, you shout whenever. Rishi Sunak called the general election in the rain outside number 10. What song was played by demonstrators nearby?
It can only
I
get
think
better.
it's a good bet. Oh, yeah.
Things, we'll give it to you, Danny. It's a bit sketchy, but things can only get better. D-Ream. In February, the National Audit Office estimated the cost of exporting each asylum seeker to Rwanda. What was the cost? Closest gets the point.
What, 2 million?
Wait,
Danny's 150,000. Alicia's
Alicia's not saying what she said before. She'll
I'm going to
abstain.
say 200,000.
Alicia should go with what she was about to say.
I said 1.2 million, but I think that's
1.8 million is what the National Audit Office said per person. But Alicia didn't have the confidence there, so no points all around there. Who won the Bake Off?
I didn't watch it. It was a woman.
It was a woman. Half a point per Zanna for a woman. Great. Georgie won it. Danny, too slow. Georgie.
I'm actually only about 4 episodes in.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry, Danny. We ruined that for you. There we go. Which Netflix 7-parter was the most talked about miniseries in 2024? About a chance encounter in a pub?
Thingy reindeer.
Reindeer.
What is it?
Baby reindeer.
Baby reindeer.
Baby reindeer. I think I'm going to give Danny and Zanna half a point each there.
Thank you.
Because one got one word and one got the other. Cryptocurrency entrepreneur Justin Sun ate a £4.9 million artwork in November, just a week after he bought it for auction in New York. What did it taste of? It's an all or nothing story here. You don't know. It's a week junior one for my kids, so I know the answer. So he got to $5 million on a banana taped to the wall.
Oh no, I did say it. Weird.
Right, I've given you a hint to this. Cambridge Dictionary Word of the Year for 2024.
Brain rot.
Gymfluencer, upcycle, hack, or manifest. Yeah, it's a lot of shouting to manifest. It was looked up 130,000 times in the dictionary's website, manifest, and it means using methods like visualization and affirmation to help make something more likely to happen. It is a massive trend, an interesting one that our mission team have been talking about, so do check that out too. I've heard them chatting about it. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Samantha Harvey's Orbital won this year's Booker Prize. Where was it set?
Space.
Space.
Oh.
Oh, straight in, Zanna. You get the points.
Thank you.
I think you're ahead at the minute. My scorekeeping's a bit sketchy. Let's see. We've got a couple more questions. Nemo won the 2024 Eurovision Song Contest with an entry called The Code. Which country were they representing?
This is so bad.
Do you know
Iceland.
where the 2025? Where's it going to be next? Okay. The clue, and it's a big clue, is it's going to be hosted in Basel. Therefore, he is from Switzerland. Well done, Danny. Maybe Nico is. Yeah, maybe I should be saying they or them or something. Who knows? Somebody I'm sure will correct me. There we go. Right, a scrap of what was incorporated into each medal at the 2024 Olympics?
Oh, the Eiffel Tower.
The Eiffel Tower. Oh, Danny's storming in with a late surge here. I think he's ahead. 3.5. I make it 2 to Zanna. 1.5 to Alicia, I think. 3 questions to go. Still time. Justin and Hailey Bieber welcomed their first child this week. Yeah. Oh, she's in.
Don't mess with me, mate.
Do you know the middle name?
It's named after his dad, which I don't know, or cousin.
Jack Blues Bieber, but you get the point. Jack's good. Yeah. Okay, in July, a rogue software update caused a widespread outrage of Microsoft Windows technology, causing chaos all around supermarkets, railway stations. What was the name of the cybersecurity company which caused the outage?
They begin with S.
They do not. That was a very bold and confident miscall. Huge firm, not often talked about. Second part of the word is strike. Something strike. Anybody? I hope no.
No, next.
CrowdStrike.
Next.
Which last question. Donald Trump was re-elected, as we know. He appointed Linda McMahon his education secretary. Which famous entertainment franchise did she previously run with her husband, Vince?
Oh, well, wrestling. WWE.
WWF and WWE. That is unbelievable. Danny, I think, is undoubtedly the winner at the end. Danny, you were starting off so well. Alicia tried a late charge, but wasn't quite getting there.
Oh, yeah.
Overly enjoyed a little bit of the quiz banter all round. We are in the home straight, which means we are talking about what is going to happen in 2025. Time for some prophetic utterances or just bold predictions. Who wants to kick us off with their prediction for 2025?
So in some parts of the media, there are rising concerns in the UK and internationally in terms of birth rates. Different governments are doing different policies to address that. 4-day week, I think it is in Japan, or Korea at the moment, to encourage family life and procreation. But I also think, based on a film that didn't really make headlines this year, the film Joy, which kind of depicted and shares the first story of the IVF baby, and linked to my earlier conversation around contraception pill. I think 2025 is going to be a very interesting dialogue of tackling low birth rates, but yet giving personal autonomy and seeing the rise of IVF and surrogacy. And I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation for the church in terms of both theologically what that means, but also pastorally. How do we support and encourage biological family life and accommodating adoption, but also how do we speak to some of the harms linked to surrogacy and kind of the contraception pill? So I'm going pretty rogue.
Wow, that is a fascinating show. Really interested to see how that one pans out. And I do think it's brilliant because it raises some really great questions for us within the church, where we maybe have a view, but not always can articulate why and how we thought through it and how we got there. Zanna.
I am going to go for the sort of conversation around social media, which we actually started last week, but I think that's only going to increase the kind of smartphone social media thing, particularly with children. I mean, obviously we've seen what's happening in Australia. There are petitions that many, I don't know the numbers, but parents are signing. There are schools kind of talking about banning phones. I just think the conversation around social media, what it's doing to us, what it's doing to our children, is just going to get even more prominent next year.
Danny?
I am going to go bold and say that they will fail to appoint an Archbishop of Canterbury, or at least one that holds all of the hats that the previous Archbishop of Canterbury have held. I think some of the divisions that we're seeing in the Church of England, I think, will be played out. So I don't think they're going to be able to appoint anyone who will keep enough people happy and hold all the roles that he currently holds.
Another bold and big shout, and one that we'll return to. Of course, if you listen to the show often, you'll know there's absolutely no chance that that's going to happen because Danny's yet to predict anything correctly. Although he will make multiple predictions over the course of the year, so eventually by the law of averages. Sorry, Danny, sorry. I think it's fair play you've named something because I was going with I just think the increasing chaosity is a word I love now, this chaos and anxiety. So I just think the underlying financials and pressures here in the UK, the creaking system at every turn. Obviously, Mr. Trump will take office, and I think the kind of barriers and boundaries are just going to kind of increase his kind of isolationist approach. That's just going to just at every turn. You couldn't have predicted what's happening in Syria. I don't understand Syria, and I'm fascinated in these areas, and I'm still trying to work out at the very basic level what's going on in terms of the forces who are involved in this conflict. And I think that's just going to increase across every sphere that we're in. So it might sound a little bit negative. I actually think there's incredible opportunities in that, in all of the stories that we've just said that we think are our highlights. Yes, there are going to be challenges, and yes, this year has been challenging, but I think at each of those conversations, assisted dying, the IVF, the beginning of life piece of that, the social media challenge, and the Archbishop of Canterbury and what faces the Church of England, and the general chaos of our world. Every one of these is a moment for us to speak in and to have a voice. That's what we've been trying to do in Cross Section. We want to thank you for joining us over the course of this year. It has been great to have you journeying with us. The Archbishop of Canterbury episode was by far and away our most popular, certainly on YouTube, and we are available there if you want to see the ridiculous hat that I'm wearing and my Christmas tree that is joining me for this podcast episode. Do check us out on YouTube. We'd love you to rate and review and share the word. We will be back at some point in the new year. Somebody will tell me at some point when that is, but we'll not be back this side of Christmas. We'll join you in 2025 as we continue to try and engage in some of the cultural conversations and bring our Christian faith, our love of Jesus, and what the church is doing in the UK into that conversation as best we can. So thank you for supporting us. Have a wonderful Christmas, and we'll see you in 2025. Be blessed.